Sheriff Denny Peyman, of course, is the sheriff of Jackson County, Kentucky, who made an emotional speech to his constituents that was posted on YouTube talking about the importance of honoring what our founding fathers fought for and the liberty they gave us, and then the moral responsibility that we have to protect those freedoms for future generations. And Sheriff Peyman, I want to welcome you back to the Alex Jones Show.
Thank you very much. It's just my pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you back on, sir. Things are moving rapidly, but I first want to ask you, what has been the reaction so far to your appearance last week on the Alex Jones Show, as well as your YouTube video? What are you hearing from people?
Well, it's all been very pro what we're trying to keep here. It's been there's been no negative calls whatsoever. What I'm getting from people mostly is that they're ready to dig in. They're ready to stand their ground, and that's been really exciting to see that there's still people that are willing to step up and to stand in the gap, even for the people that choose not to. The people that choose to are still standing in the gap, not only for their freedoms, but for the freedoms of the people that obviously don't understand what's happening right now.
So have you had a meeting with your deputies then where it's very clear to everybody that you're standing your ground, you're not going to disarm constituents in your county and so on? Is it clear to everybody now where you and your office stands?
Yes, it's very clear. And the support that's come back from the community has just been great. Because sometimes when you make a stance like that and you step out, I mean, I didn't ask anybody about it. I didn't ask for a poll. I didn't ask for the favor if it was going to be good or bad. I just went by my heart and the commitment that I made when I took an oath, and the way I was raised, and the things that I was taught in my home by my parents. There was just no other response to have, is that, no, it's just not going to happen here.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. This isn't up to a poll. That's the whole point of the Bill of Rights, is that these things in the Bill of Rights are not subject to debate. They're not subject to popular movements. You always have a First Amendment. You always have a Second Amendment, and so on. They cannot be taken away from you, no matter how unpopular they may become at any particular moment in history. So you did the right thing. You followed your oath.
Exactly. And that's what I think people are looking for. I think a lot of people are still, what's politically correct and what's, going to get me reelected, or, they have their own little hidden agendas as to their safe being. But with me, it was just the commitment that I had made, and the issues that I count to be important to me and to my family and the people around me, and that's a very big commitment, is to uphold what has been given and handed down to us, and the price that others have paid, that we might just even have these opportunities.
Absolutely. And also, just from a practical, perhaps even a tactical viewpoint, if your population there, your constituents, if they were forcibly disarmed from some other method, or if they turned in all their guns for some reason, which I know they wouldn't do, but wouldn't that put you and your deputies in grave danger responding to 911 calls? Because now you're going into situations where you don't have any help of firepower from the citizens.
Exactly. And I talk with citizens every day, and I've talked with citizens today. One that had just come in, and I've known this man to carry a gun for the last 15 years. Every day that I've been around him, I've never seen it. I've never seen his gun, but I know every day that he has. When I asked him if he had his weapon with him, and he said yes, he did. And if I'm out in a remote area and my closest backup is maybe 30 minutes away, and I'm in a bad situation, I sure would like to see a citizen like that show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
I would actually be hanging myself out to disarm him,
Yeah, that would be crazy. Have you ever, or have any of your discussions gone into the area of, let's say, a possible financial collapse followed by civil unrest, and then how your county might protect your community with the help of armed citizens? Has that ever entered your discussions at all?
Not so much like in open discussions in a meeting or anything like that, but just in coffee room talk.
Yeah.
What people are saying, what they're going to do. And, you have a lot of people that, do the home storage. They get the food, they get the water, and they've been real good too, but they're pacifist type people.
Yeah.
And, I understand that, I respect their beliefs, but I also know that that's the first place that they're going to hit because they know there's no resistance there.
Right.
And so is that really fair to their family, who they have, said they're going to provide for the next year while we go through these situations, these problems, and to have somebody else march in and take the stuff out of their home and leaves them with nothing?
Well, there was a comedian, I think it was Gaffigan who said this. He said, if you store up a bunch of food and you don't have a gun, all you've done is stored supplies for the biggest bully on the block.
Exactly.
Not such a good strategy. Are you open to taking a few calls?
Sure.
Because I would like to take some calls, live calls here, and we've got one guest, Rick from New Mexico. I'd like to go to Rick first, please, who is says he's got a question for the sheriff. So, Rick from New Mexico, you're on the air with Sheriff Peyman. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Doing great, sir. How about you?
Good. I just wanted to tell you something, and then I want to ask the sheriff a question.
All right.
But you just talked about that homeschooling, and we homeschool, or about the school thing. You know how corrupt the schools are.
Yeah.
But we homeschool, and we didn't have our kid vaccinated. My wife's never worked a day out of the home. And there's times when it gets really stressful with the money. But then, when you hear things like that, you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? By protecting your kids.
I'm a big advocate of homeschooling.
Pardon?
I said we need more homeschoolers, but go ahead with your question for the sheriff, please.
Okay. I wanted to know if you're familiar with the oath takers. Are you part of that, or?
I am. I've learned more about them. No, I'm not an oath taker other than...
Oath keeper.
Oath keeper. I'm sorry.
Yes.
An oath keeper other than, just from what I've heard about it, but I take any oath that I say, it's a promise. It's very important to me.
Well, it's sworn... Go ahead, caller.
Sorry. I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and, I get called into the chicken coop or pulled over by the state patrol, and it's very surprising because things I learned from Alex, I'll sit and question them when I'm sitting in the car and ask them questions about the ammunition at the Homeland Security. And these people are very much against Obama, for the most part, and all the things that he's doing. So, that's good news, I guess.
Well, yeah, your comments on that, Sheriff.
Well, from what I've taught, the calls that I've had from officers, I've had from military people, I've had from everybody that you can imagine. But a lot of the officers and military people are saying when it comes right down to that, with them having to come into my county and do that, they said they won't do it.
Yeah, very, very good. Well, thank you for your call, Rick. That was some good questions. Sheriff, I'm curious, have you had any conversations at all with your Senator, Rand Paul? Because...
I've talked with him, and I've talked with his people, and we've had quite a few conversations already. So it's been, there's a lot of support there. Anything
that's okay to share on the air about, Rand Paul has been very public about, Obama being a king and how he's going to lead a resistance in the Congress against unconstitutional executive orders, for example. Is there anything in those conversations that is okay to share with us publicly?
Well, just that we have the same beliefs and we have the same thing at heart. The thing is that at heart is the Constitution, and by serving the people that have put us in these positions, that's the only thing we can do. And the position that he takes is being supported by everybody here.
Yeah.
And I've had no opposition other than just high regards for Rand in all that he is doing and all the people here that support him.
Have you spoken with Sheriff Mack?
Yes, I have.
Good.
Yes, I have.
It is people like you, Sheriff Peyman, who are the key to victory of restoring the public in America, and I'm sure you realize that.
But it's really kind of sad in some ways because I've had some people come up and say, "Oh, you're really a hero," and what it is, it's not being a hero. It's a responsibility of all Americans.
Absolutely.
And it's something that should have never got to this point in the first place.
Well, that's what I said in the last hour, and I know this is going to be controversial, but I said people who openly attack the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, who are saying we should eliminate it, they are enemies of America, and we should deport them and strip them of their citizenship, as far as I'm concerned.
That's if they're not happy here, there's a lot of other places in the world that I'm sure would take them right in.
Yeah, well, Kim Jong-un needs some additional servants in his gulags, so I'm sure a lot of those folks will be happy there. Let's go to another caller. Joe in Pennsylvania with comments on the Second Amendment. Joe, you're on the air with Alex Jones Show and Sheriff Peyman. Go ahead, sir.
How you doing, guys?
Doing good.
Good.
First of all, I want to thank you, Sheriff, for what you're doing. You know, we need more public people to come out in public like you are, because I'm sure, you know, a lot of them are, you know, thinking the same thing, but I think they need to go more public. But one thing I've noticed on YouTube, I think they're suppressing counts on things because there's like tons of people that are, you know, they got these comments about the guns. And,
they systematically do that. Yes, Joe.
And it's disheartening. And also, like on Facebook, you make comments like this, and people, they just don't care. They just care about cookies and football and all that other stuff. But I wanted to share something with you guys. I'm sure you've seen it before, but if not, I found a interesting video on YouTube. It was published on December 15th of 2012. Australia bans guns. Crime rate soars. Sure. And they if you didn't see it, it just shows how they're chopping up the guns, and the people. The guy said, the gun I have to keep it locked here. It can't be loaded. Well,
let's direct that to Sheriff Peyman. Thank you for your call, Joe. But what would happen in your county, Jackson County, Kentucky, if everyone were disarmed? What would happen to the crime rate there, in your view?
It'd just go out the roof. I mean, we'd have people coming from everywhere just to steal from here.
Yeah. You know? Well, hey, Sheriff, why don't you just, I got the solution for you. You put a big sign on the road that comes into your county, and the sign says gun-free zone. Then you'd be protected, right?
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. Every good citizen would probably stop there, and if they did have a gun, rather than enter, they'd probably turn around and leave and would not enter that zone if they were, you know, just a good citizen that went by that.
But of course, part of the problem is some of these criminals can't read because they're illiterate, so they can't even read gun-free zone. So that's why, if they could read it, it would work. Then they would just turn their guns in at the border, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I think the biggest problem with this whole gun thing is everybody's. I don't know what's happened to people's common sense. You know.
You and me both, brother.
I mean, they're talking stuff that. I mean, it's just. I would be ashamed to even have that come out of my mouth. You know.
Well, it's this magical thinking. They think, for example, this is mostly from people who are not familiar with firearms. They think that a rifle will leap out of the trunk of a car. It will load itself, it will turn its own safety off, and it will engage in rapid fire as its own animated metallic object without any human being operating it. That's what they literally believe.
Well, we tried to, you know, so we'd have something to back that up, that theory up. We took a gun and we placed it in a room full of people, but we hid it where nobody knew it was in there, but yet it was in plain view. And we had people come and go. We did that for several years, and not one of those people ever saw that gun, felt that gun. That gun never bothered anybody. So
really?
We didn't know what to do after that.
Well, I'm pretty sure Obama would say that's an unscientific experiment. You did not have a control group.
Oh, but we did, and we logged it every day as to what it did and everything. So. Well,
they also believe, I mean, at the bottom line is all of us want to see less violence against innocents. That's the goal that we can agree on. What we disagree on is how to get to that point. And for some reason, the gun grabbers think that if the law-abiding citizens turn their guns in, that somehow fewer criminals would use guns. How does that even make sense?
Well, you know, I mean, it's just, I'm looking at the criminal side of it. Let's just say I'm a criminal, and I picked out a school that I'm going to go attack. So I started doing my homework on the school, and I realized the guy that went ahead of me to go to this school, when he walked into the school, a guy came out from behind the desk and shot him. You know, he didn't get a chance to shoot anybody.
Yeah.
Chances are I'm not going to go to that school. I'm going to have to look for another one.
Well, there you go. Another argument for arming some of the school personnel. Let's go to another call if you're okay. Pat in Texas. Pat, welcome to the show. You're on the air with Sheriff Peyman. Go ahead, sir.
I wanted to say that, and I haven't heard this mentioned lately, but many years ago in Kennesaw, Georgia, they passed a law that you had to have a gun in your house.
Yes.
Of course, law-abiding citizens. Didn't the crime rate drop 70%? The criminal break-ins drop 70% overnight?
Good question. Are you aware of the stats related to that, Sheriff?
I have heard of that, but it wasn't here in our area because they didn't have to pass a law like that. People had it anyway.
Yeah.
That's something that goes back to the common sense thing,
All right. Well, do you have a follow-up question, Pat?
Yeah. I'm worried about like taking the bullets, sale of the bullets away, and where do you hide those? I know Tupperware will hold things waterproof. I put matches in Tupperware and thrown it in the yard, and 2 years later, took them out and struck them. Now that's the old Tupperware. The new Tupperware is microwave proof. But I was wondering, how do you stop them from detecting that with a metal detector, the kind you go to the beach with and look for rings with your kids?
I can answer that. Living on a ranch in Texas, you throw all kinds of scrap metal all over the yard, which is pretty much already there anyway if you live on a ranch. Any other thoughts on that, Sheriff?
No, that's the way it works, though. And there's bullets buried that they can dig them up years and years from now. People have thought well enough ahead in advance that even if they pass stuff today, they're never going to get all this stuff. So
yeah, I tell you, if one of Obama's minions wants to run a metal detector over 400 acres, go for it. That'll distract you while we restore liberty in the meantime. All right, let's go to another caller, and thank you for your call, Pat. Mariah in Iowa. Mariah, you're on the air with Sheriff Peyman from Kentucky. Go ahead with your call. Your question.
Mike. How are you?
Doing great.
Hi, Denny.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm doing all right. I have a question for you. I need some clarity on it, clarification.
Go ahead.
With all this, after the president signed these executive orders and everybody went into panic, I know Alex had a few sheriffs on. Don't know whether it was you or Sheriff Mack. I'm in central Iowa. I have my county sheriff ran solely. He's a high-profile individual.
Okay, caller, we're gonna have to go to break here real quick, but please. Oh, we're skipping it. Okay, I'm sorry. We're skipping this break. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you. I really want to get this out in the open. I think a lot of people are confused at what a sheriff, what is his duty when he is sworn in. This sheriff of my county was, like I said, a high-profile individual. He ran on his name. He was just elected to a second term from his previous job.
So your question is, what are the responsibilities of the sheriff?
What the 10th Amendment? I called him. I wanted to know how he stood on the issue of if federal officials were to come in, does he have the right to say no? This is my responsibility. These are the people that elected me.
Well, the short answer is yes, but let's let Sheriff Peyman answer that.
Yes, the sheriff is the highest elected official for law enforcement in your area. If it be the county, then that's be the area. Where just like Kentucky, we're a sovereign state, and they've tried to break that. What's happened over the years is the states have given up rights and things to the federal government. If you go back to the way the Constitution was made, that we're all individuals. Just like they're trying to make decisions in Washington for the people in Jackson County. All they can make is the decisions for a mass of people. I'm going to do a better job or the people here are going to do a better job of electing somebody that's going to provide for our needs here rather than something federal. Now, the sheriff here the sheriff there knows your problems and situations and issues better than the federal people coming in. The federal people can pass those laws, but most sheriffs do not exercise the rights and authority that they do have because most of them aren't familiar with it.
That's right. That's right. So a sheriff can say, and if this is passed by the local voters, a law that says, let's say a federal agent cannot enforce an unconstitutional gun confiscation in the county, a sheriff can legally stand on the road with force and arrest those federal agents, and that is all 100% protected under law.
Yes.
I hope it doesn't come to that. I would hope the feds would back down, knowing what they'd be facing, but I think that's what the caller was getting at.
Yeah, well, I think the way it's going to go, I don't think it's going to be the federal people come in to try to get the guns anyway, because most of the federal people I've talked to believe the same way that we believe. They swore an oath to the Constitution as well.
Yes.
And I think it's going to take outside of this country bringing people in that are actually the ones in the long run when it gets out to that point. But the key is don't let it get to that point. Let's nip it in the bud right now and take control of what is already ours.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I know there are many very good men and women in the FBI, for example, even in the ATF, in the DEA. Sometimes I criticize the DEA for their overreaching raids, but you know, there are good people in every branch, just as there are bad apples in every branch. But I think you're right. There are enough good people to prevail. But are you talking about like a Red Dawn type of scenario? Something really goes wrong and we have foreign troops in the country? Is that what you're...
Yeah, I think that's where your United Nations is going to play an effect.
Yeah.
As if something goes wrong somewhere else, they send the U.S. boys over there. And if something goes wrong here, they're just going to hold the U.S. boys back because they wouldn't do that. They're not going to go into some little woman's house that lives, her closest neighbor's 2 miles away, and she's just there with her pets, and the only thing she has is a AK-47 laying by her bed to protect herself. I don't think they're going to take it from her.
No, and they will have to use foreign troops. But I got to tell you, every hunter in Texas can hit a blue helmet at 600 yards. So they're gonna be in for a fight if that happens. Let's go to one more call. Austin in Ohio, calling in about the Obama inauguration. Austin, go ahead. You're on the air, sir.
How are you gentlemen doing today?
We're fighting for liberty, brother.
Oh yeah, right on. I just wanted to speak my mind on something because this whole Obama inauguration is just a complete hoax. And I'm just seeing people around on social media and just everywhere in general just worshiping this puppet who kills kids with little drones. And it's just completely ridiculous how they just worship a puppet who's doing all of this stuff. And the sheep out here are just not doing any type of research out here. And they're making all these biased comparisons to Martin Luther King and all these pictures and stuff. And it's just completely demonizing.
Well,
and
Austin, let me let you in on something here that I'm convinced, and Sheriff, you'll find this interesting as well. I'm convinced that about 1/3 of all of the Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts are run by advanced linguistic robots. In other words, code that's been written to act like real human beings. You don't know that's even a real person. So a lot of that stuff, it's a completely, like you said, it's a complete hoax. It's a theater reaction that's made to appear as if it were real. Sheriff, directing the question to you, and thank you for your call. Austin, have you seen some of this posts on Facebook about you that seem to be sort of, maybe there wasn't really a person behind it, auto-generated type of thing?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Well, they're out there. The robots are running the online world. That's the thing about local government. When you spoke to your constituents on that YouTube video, there you were in person, face to face, eye to eye. That's real. But this stuff on Facebook, it could all be a hoax. We don't even know.
Yeah. Very true. That's why I say when you're better off, and that's when the sheriffs on the level of the county level are going to make a lot better decision for his people, his constituents, than somebody from federal people.
That's exactly right.
And that's why they designed it that way.
Are you, I'm just curious, by the way, we need more people in positions of authority in America, people like you. And I'm sure you've heard that, and I know you're a humble person, but have you ever thought about, I don't know, running for Congress in the state of Kentucky or taking on a position of more influence?
Well, I have. I've had people have talked to me a lot about that in the last week and have offered avenues to do that. What I do is something like that. I just have to pray about it and just see the direction. There's nothing worse than to be out of the will of what God would have you to do. I mean, if my sole purpose in life is to be a sheriff in Jackson County and raise up some young men to go on and fill those positions and guide and direct them, then that's what I would do.
Absolutely. Well, that's the sense I get, that you are already a powerful, influential person just by the truth in your voice, the wisdom in your words. And without even ever stepping foot in the House of Congress, you are influencing minds right now in a positive direction that can influence generations to come.
Well, you know, people came before us, the generations before us were men and women that took a stand, and then upon that stand, people reacted and moved with that, and that's why we are where we are today. I can still look back into my childhood and people that helped mold me, and it's the responsibility of us to mold that next generation. I may never be in Congress, but if I can mold a young man or young woman to go into Congress and to make the right decisions that are going to further benefit liberty and our area here, then that's what I'm doing.
Words of wisdom from Sheriff Denny Peyman of Jackson County, Kentucky. Thank you, Sheriff, for joining us today on the Alex Jones Show. Pleasure to speak with you again.
Thank you, sir.
And he's right. Life is fleeting, but principle lasts forever. Be right back.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the sites, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.